Is anyone else not selling because the market is too high even though you have a ton of equity? We want to sell our house but the market is too high even with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equity. We called a realtor to evaluate our home that we bought in 2015 for $300,000. The home is now worth $750,000, so we have amassed a lot of equity on paper. We wanted to move to a smaller bedroom community one town over that has a really well-regarded public school system, but homes over there have gone up about the same amount. A house there that would have cost $500,000 2015 is now selling in the $1.2 million range. It feels like both buyers and sellers are losers in this market unless you are moving to a lower cost of living area or are downsizing. This is the issue. Sell if you already have a place to go. Because the market is currently buyer beware. High prices and high rates. If you're buying with cash, you're in a much better position than most. I feel bad for young or first-time home buyers. All the people with 2.75 home loans, complaining about inflation are annoying. Considering that you've amassed $450,000 in equity through appreciation in addition to whatever equity you've gained through 8 years of mortgage payments, that's a pretty massive down payment that you'd be able to afford for a house in the $1.2 million range. You're in a much better position to buy a house than someone who doesn't have that equity to take advantage of. I mean, you're looking to buy in a more expensive neighborhood than your current one. You weren't expecting to be able to make a one-to-one trade, were you? I prefer to upsize in a down market. My 10 reduction on smaller value home would be less than 10 reduction on larger value home when looking at the dollars. In my area, homes in good school districts tend to hold value and stay in demand. They also tend to have higher property taxes and levies. Sometimes you pick the kids over best dollar return on home. I always felt like you have about 5 years give or take after child is born to do a school district move. Correct. If buying and selling in the same market, then it's a wash. Sell high, buy high. The real bonanza is for people looking to downsize or moving to a local area. They can cash out and rent, or buy something smaller. My friend lives in a whole area and wasn't necessarily ready to move out, but listed his home for a crazy price, and guess what? He got the asking in 5 days. So what now? Well, he went and bought a smaller, cheaper home in the area and pocketed a cool $500,000. For us, it's not the price but the rate. We can afford way less at current rates than our current 2.x. Can't justify moving when it's cheaper to literally replace every surface in our home or expand if needed. We're going to be buying and selling in the same market and in about the same price range, so we are going for it. Any increase or decrease in values will be a wash, and if there is a bubble that bursts, at least we'll be living where we want to live. Real losers are first-time home buyers. That's it. It's more the interest rates than equity keeping people in place. Trying to slow the market has backfired so far because of the sellers' strike. Inflation is real and permanent. It affects everyone equally. Everyone is affected by it, but current homeowners benefited tremendously. Mostly FDHB are hurt the worst and hence hang out at rebubble. It's say you're fortunate, so take the good with the bad. You might be stuck like everyone else for a good 5 years. If rates go down to 4, you might see some more people selling, but it'll take a while. No, we had $400K in equity on a small townhome and we upgraded to a house last year we could never afford otherwise with a huge down payment. We are in a great neighborhood with great schools. If we would have waited, it would have only been more expensive. I pretty much just did this and chose to move equity from one home to the other in the form of a large down payment. You only live once, and despite the rates, etc., you deserve to live where you want to live. Sorry, but unless you're relocating somewhere with a significantly lower call, you're buying in the same market you're selling in. I know so many people who got caught up in this in the last couple of years. They got starstruck with the numbers that were coming out of comps in their neighborhoods, put their houses up for sale, and then had a hell of a time finding their next place. Your situation is eerily similar to ours. Even with the $400,000 in equity available to roll into the purchase of another house, any house in our current neighborhood that's a step up from ours would significantly increase our monthly mortgage payment. We're essentially trapped in this house. Admittedly, though, being trapped in a house with a reasonable mortgage payment is still preferable to dealing with the ridiculous rental market. But it's my forever home. Your house went up $450,000 in 7 years and the house you want to buy went up $450,000 too? Oh no. Who could have possibly imagined this scenario? I'd like someone who knows more to weigh in, but it's my understanding that more expensive homes typically appreciate slower than starter homes, right? So in some regard you are coming out ahead if you sell your home with 150 gains for a better one that appreciated 100 in the same time frame. With your equity, you'd have like a 50-60 down payment on the $1 million home right off the bat, right? If I wasn't moving to a cheaper state I wouldn't have sold. I have equity but not enough to upgrade. You're doing fine with that equity. Basically it's an even trade up for a better house. I'm not selling because of my 2.75 rate even though my equity is about $500K right now. It feels like both buyers and sellers are losers in this market. Nope, it's just buyers. You have a home that more than doubled in value. I mean, yeah, this is how it always works. Your primary home equity is only worth something if you're moving somewhere with alcohol or significantly downsizing. Fabulous for folks moving out of CA and NYC. No judgment, I'm one of them. Imagine how future generations will feel. They won't get the chances you all got cause of greed and inflation. This is why I don't consider my home equity in any of my personal net worth calculations. I don't want to move to a lower cost of living area, so I have X of a house. The house can be the one I have or a reasonably equivalent one, but that money effectively doesn't exist to me outside of a genuine six-figure emergency. You're not comparing apples to apples though. You paid $300,000 in 2015 and mentioned the new neighborhood was $500,000 then. The more desirable the neighborhood, the higher the rate of appreciation and the higher the cost. The real question is in 2015 you probably had a 4.8 and you probably owe $200,000 now. Say you net $500,000 towards that $1.2 house. Can you afford the $700,000 mortgage at today's rate in the new community that you'd rather live in? My opinion, and it's just the way I see it for now. If I believe the market is inflated, sell high and downsize. Buy something half the value, or even better buy two at half value or a multiplex, and turn one into a rental. If the market was a bubble and it pops, the more affordable places become more in demand and don't take quite the hit as upper middle class homes. The idea is that you would lose less, while also supplementing. Then, you could sell the downsized properties and then upgrade at bargain basement foreclosed prices. Lol. Well, obviously, if you sell, you become a buyer again. If your house rose in value, so did others. It's only common sense. If you buy in a down market, your house will also be worth less. So it all kind of evens out in the end. In the same boat as you, our youngest heads off for college this fall. We have 5 bedrooms, 3,400 square feet, a 3.25 April. We bought in 2006. We don't want to double our interest rate if we have to borrow to downsize. We don't trust the housing market to repeat 2008. It really comes down to the haves and have-nots. I could move up the street and buy a similar home to the one I currently live in and my payment would go up by $3,500 a month. What's the point in moving? You'd have to be stupid. Is it really a ton of equity if everything else costs more too? Given inflation, it's not really a win unless you happen to have some spare houses that you just want to offload for cash. Or if you're downsizing or willing to trade off something like location or lifestyle. You still have to live somewhere.